I was an officer for our local police department, and my shifts were always changing. One night, I was working from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. at the office when a dispatcher notified me of a call about a group of teenagers trespassing on private property, specifically a hospital on the outskirts of town that had been abandoned for the last decade. This was a common place for groups to hang out and do various illegal activities, and the whole department knew about it. It was my fourth time going there, and I was sure it would be a quick and typical case of walking in and either escorting a group of friends out or watching them run off. I was tired, so either was good enough for me, but I honestly didn't care too much to arrest and charge them. I just needed them to leave the property. When I arrived at the hospital, I quickly realized that something was off. A flashlight was shining through the windows of the second story, moving really fast across multiple windows like someone was running through the hallway. I got out of my vehicle and prepped my flashlight before entering the building. I called out, requesting everyone to show themselves, but of course no one did. I listened at the entrance for any noises to hopefully give me an idea of where to look, but it was dead silent. Enough so to wake me up and get my nerves going, having me keep my right hand on the holster of my gun. It was always a slight fear that it could be a trap to lead in an officer and attempt something, but I kept my cool and walked through the old hallway and up the flight of stairs. As I reached the top of the stairs, a thud echoed through the building, sounding like someone hitting a wall. It was definitely from the second floor. I entered the hallway and shone my flashlight all the way down, not seeing anyone or even a sign of anyone. I called out again very aggressively, knowing that the stairs I was by were the only way up and down from the second story. I stayed there and listened again, but heard nothing more than the creaking of the building. I walked slowly through the hallway, looking through each door and scanning the rooms with my flashlight, but there was nothing more than old hospital beds and graffiti. When I got to the last room, the door was closed, so I called out one more time before swinging it open. I cleared the room, but nobody was inside. However, there were signs of recent activity, being cigarettes on the ground with smoke still rising from them. This was extremely concerning, knowing that they hadn't left the second floor through the stairs, and the only other way was if they had jumped out of a broken window before I could even check the door behind me. Slammed shut, followed by something smashing against it and footsteps departing down the hallway. Luckily, I was able to forcefully push the door open enough to slide through the opening, seeing that a large hospital bed was pressed against it. By the time I got out, whoever was there was long gone. Backup came, and we did a more thorough investigation, also checking in with the one who originally called in the two teenagers. What was odd about this was that there was only one clear set of footsteps I heard, and only one flashlight in the window. The cigarettes still burning also showed that they had left in a hurry, which could have been from me arriving. But then why would one of them stay behind in the morning? We got reports from a mother on her missing teenage son, followed soon after by an identical report by another mother on her teenage son. After looking into it for days and then weeks and then months, it was almost definite that they weren't going to show up, and now 6 years later, they still haven't. Their disappearance is an unlikely one, and that's what makes it so difficult. It isn't certain whether or not the person in the hospital with me was one of the two kids, but the current most stable theory is that it was someone else, and unless something more comes up, it's not likely that we will ever know. As a security guard for a small warehouse in the city, I used to work an overnight shift that wasn't ideal, but it paid well compared to others. The company that owned the building sold expensive tech items, so it was necessary to have the building under surveillance 24/7. My job consisted of watching cameras, walking around and filling out reports. On this particular night, it was raining heavily with occasional thunder, creating a creepy ambience that made me feel more laid back knowing that nobody would be going out. I got in at 10:30 p.m. and talked to the closing shift workers as they left. Having the warehouse to myself until 6:00 a.m., the building was usually quiet with only occasional creaking. But with the rain crackling down on the roof, It was almost impossible to hear anything else. About 2 hours in, I took a break from staring at camera footage and got up to walk around the building for a typical security check. I went all the way down to the far end where most of the storage section of the warehouse was and started walking towards the other end when a soft beeping sound echoed through the hallway. It was an alert coming from the security room, and I quickly checked it to see that it was a latch sensor on the back door, which meant someone tried to open it. I opened up the live camera feed covering that door, but didn't see anyone after checking it for a minute. I went to the back door myself to take a look, thinking maybe the sensor was faulty or that the rain had messed with something. I disabled the alarm and opened the door, glancing around to see nothing but an empty alleyway behind the warehouse. The door itself looked fine, though I wasn't an expert on it. I ran it through a test, and it never misfired or failed to detect the latch. Afterward, I walked cautiously across the building looking for any fallen boxes or noticeable damage, but didn't find anything as I got closer to the front of the building. The sound of the rain started to get louder, and I rounded the corner to see that the front door was wide open, with water puddles reflecting on the floor. I sprinted back and locked myself inside the room, pressing the emergency button to get hold of the police immediately while I waited. I heard a few thuds from within the building but didn't see anything as I listened intently. The police arrived a few minutes later, and 2 officers searched the warehouse while one remained at the front. A minute later, they came back with a man in cuffs, who was hiding behind some boxes in the storage area with a hammer in his hands. As he passed by me, he gave me a cold stare that horrified me. The police reported back that the guy seemed to have been under the influence of several drugs and gave no reason for his actions. Luckily, he's still behind bars, and I no longer work overnight at a creepy warehouse, but that night still holds a horrifying feeling over me, especially on rainy nights when I can't see or hear my surroundings. This incident occurred on a road trip I took while returning from visiting my family during the holiday season. Typically, I prefer flying and avoid driving for extended periods, but this year, exorbitant ticket prices compelled me to embark on a long drive spanning a few states. Despite meticulous planning to arrive home a few days before work resumed, an unexpected snowstorm led me to extend my stay by an additional 2 days before commencing the journey. The roads, devoid of post-holiday traffic, meandered through less populated areas, posing the primary challenge of combating sleepiness and monotony. The initial 8 hours passed without incident, albeit my weariness. The snow-covered road served as a visual stimulant, keeping me alert. Around 10 p.m., with a hotel reservation in a small town just 2 hours away, a dim light appeared in my rearview mirror. It turned out to be headlights from a vehicle approaching rapidly, the first fellow traveler encountered in over an hour. The lights grew larger, revealing a fast-approaching large van. With the road limited to a single lane, I couldn't yield, anticipating they would overtake me due to their considerable speed. Surprisingly, upon reaching my car, the van matched my speed and trailed behind for almost 10 minutes. The eerie sensation intensified as the van stuck close, obscuring its front bumper and license plate in my mirror. Concerned, I took note of an upcoming gas station exit, hoping to shake off the pursuer. To my dismay, the van continued to tail me as I exited and pulled into the gas station. Uncertainty loomed as I parked at a pump, the van ominously settling in behind me. Surveying the dimly lit gas station, I noticed a portion with lights off and a closed sign on the door. The surroundings were shrouded in darkness, devoid of houses or buildings, only a snow-covered field with a solitary road. Glancing in my mirror, I spotted a man outside the van, refueling. A feeling, whether instinct or intuition, prompted me to be cautious. As I pumped gas, the man swiftly completed refueling and proceeded to the back of the van. The unsettling sound of the back door being lifted open prompted me to act swiftly. Retrieving the pump, I sensed impending danger. 3 men suddenly sprinted towards me from around the van. As I hastily got into my car, locking the doors, one attempted to force open the door as I shivered in fear. I quickly started the car, and the trio circled around, attempting each door before abruptly retreating to their van. Driving away, I witnessed their departure in the opposite direction. Despite reporting the incident to the police, I received no updates. It became evident that their intention was to carry out abductions under the cover of night on the desolate highway. The unsettling aspect was their confidence and professionalism, as if they were seasoned in such activities. Reflecting on the incident, I emphasize the importance of vigilance and encourage others to learn from my experience, as the outcome might not be as fortunate for everyone.